you as an agent cannot start blabberjawing and taking off talking.
Answering the question you
let me
just
show you a
asked.
couple things. You have to let them feel that moment, as Chris is saying, because in that very
Right.
moment, they realize more than anything the need, and then as they start to speak, it becomes
The want. Yes.
So right then, I never really felt the need. I never felt vulnerable.
Right.
I'm trying to paint the picture in a nice way by asking questions, not telling that the decisions we make have a lasting effect on generations to come.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Zach and I have some stuff for you.
We're going to give it to him.
We're going to give it to him. Grab your crayons and pencils, gang, because you're going to want to take notes. This is going to add massive value to your sales process. We're going to jump right in. Zach, we just got done with some telesales training. We did a boot camp.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of energy.
I love that stuff, man. I love it. I love the energy. I love it when I'm not a good snapper. A light bulb goes off.
You're really not that good of a snapper.
I went to camp and everything. I couldn't get a snap camp.
I do want to share a little something from our
go
boot camp, though. By the way, you do a phenomenal job in these boot camps. It is amazing watching you work. But one thing's really cool, just so you guys know, when we start the boot camp, we kind of opened it up. We kind of wanted to get to know everybody a little bit who they're from, how long they've been in the business, so a little bit about their experience. But you gave them one word of why they're doing this. We've heard things like family. We heard things like, there was future. There was different words.
Legacy.
And the cool thing was, and we rolled around to me, and my one word was transformation. And the thing I love about these boot camps was you can see that. You can literally see the belief and the confidence start to, like, almost an aura around their body. Now, it's not at first.
No, at first you see kind of the sinking, in some cases, motion that happens.
It's you can see them really having a battle with themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're clashing with their inner fear of failure, their anxieties. Are they prepared enough? Are they capable of this? Can they do that? This is all brand new. Most of them are brand new people, or people that have been in the insurance business but maybe doing other lines or other verticals, and this is their first time doing final expense telesales.
Yes.
But to be able to see that, man, it's powerful, and it's also like, oh boy,
Here we go.
I hope they're coachable.
Yes.
I hope that they can grasp a little bit of belief from us, from their peers, from other people that are there. And that's what's so powerful about that room, is to be able to pack 24, 25 people in there and get everybody's station set up and rolling, that they can borrow off that. So that's really cool. But that also brought us to talk to you guys a little bit about the things we've learned that people struggle with, and give them some goodies. Yeah.
And those events, man, we had 20 agents in there. We did 42 applications in
2 days,
40,000 in production in 2 days. So they're getting my goal is to give handholds for them to be able to start getting traction, and then they can take ownership of a process. So, hey, if you guys are interested, we do have boot camps coming up. I don't know if we have a scheduled date for an LIA boot camp, but if you are interested in the boot camps, throw in their boot camp. Put it in the comments below, boot camp, and
maybe your location.
Yeah,
that would help us as well.
Matter of fact, we may have a boot camp where we do possibly a major giveaway. If that's interesting.
You're making stuff up right now, but it's kind of exciting.
Yes, it is, right? Yeah. So if that's something you're interested in, put boot camp. And if we get enough people responding, then, hey, we're going to drop some dimes and help some people win. That's what's most important.
Absolutely.
So, Cool. Well, we do have a podcast for you today. We kind of wanted to talk about some of the trends we were hearing in the training that we just did. And Zach, you talked about 3 questions that really were turning the corner for agents in this process. And, if you're getting maybe 100 leads for a week and you're doing telesales, you might get 2 or 3 applications without asking these questions just by the activity.
Yeah.
But you do ask the questions, it's doing the work for you.
100%.
So let's go ahead and talk about that. What's the first one that you noticed?
Yeah, absolutely. These there's really 3 questions, but there's little questions built inside of the 3 questions. But this is 3 main topics. So as Chris told you, if you get your crowns or your markers or your pencils, these are the 3 big ones you want to do, and then we'll take sub notes underneath of it. But the number one thing, and the number one, as we were listening, we had this really cool technology where we can listen to calls, which is awesome. We can provide feedback and coaching real time in that moment. And a lot of people that are new, probably somewhat like a lot of our listeners now, they have that anxiety. You can hear it in their voice. You can hear it in their pacing. You can hear it in their tone. And the number one tendency when doing that is to kind of remove the human element and just go directly off the script. So we do provide a script that has been extremely successful, that works amazing. But no script, no matter what it is enough, right?
No, correct.
And so I wanted to start that off by saying that we had people making it very far early in the call, having lengthy calls by simply just going off the script. But there was these 3 questions, and we were able to coach and mentor people and ask them to add this to every single phone call they made, and it literally made an instant difference, not just in the results that they were getting, but their whole mindset in the next call leading up to it, because it adds that human element. And the first one, Chris, is probably the biggest and most important question that you can ask in insurance, period. And it is, why is that important to you?
Yeah, that's we refer to some of these questions as emotional excavation. And I can tell you personally, when I started, I heard that through multiple trainings, didn't make the connection because I was focusing on selling something and never asked that. And then when I started to ask that question, it's like a key that unlocks.
Yes.
It unlocks the need. And I think people understand, there's a need, we're solving a problem. But when you're new and you don't have a lot of sales experience, you have trouble with this word need. Like, what if they don't have one? Or you believe that? What if they, I'm going to have to make one. Like I got to make this need up,
Yeah,
so,
it didn't work.
Yeah, that why is this important to you? Is a key that unlocks the conversation.
And I want to give a little preface to this of where it actually comes in.
Perfect.
Okay. It can come in a couple different places, and by all means, you can use this more than once. Okay.
Yeah.
What it shows,
that's a very good point,
is it shows that you are listening. It shows that you care. And ultimately, when you're talking about final expense, it's an emotional sell. You're trying to help them feel comfortable you and vulnerable enough with you to tell you how much they love their family. Yeah. The only reason they're going to buy a policy in final expense is because they LOVE somebody else, right? Because think about it. Low-income families, they've kind of probably had a hard life, difficult jobs. They're on a very limited budget or income, but they're willing to spend a large percentage. It may not be a large percentage to everybody, but a large percentage to them on a final expense plan that they will never see, touch, or feel, right? It's only because they love somebody. So we need to bring that emotion. We need to understand that. So when you're walking through and you're trying to, moving through your script or moving through your presentation, or whether you're seeing with them face to face or you're selling them over the phone, just having the ability to listen to them. And when you're trying to understand, again, not manufacturing a need, but you're trying to understand what prompted them, what vulnerabilities struck them internally or subconsciously to make them fill out that request, whether it be Facebook, whether it be the internet, whether it be a direct mail piece, or even a referral. Something let them know that it was important to them. And they needed to fill out that request and move forward with it. So anytime you get an indication, well, Mr. Chris, I don't have anything in place, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'd be like, I completely understand that. Why is it important to you to make sure something's in place for your family?
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Or typically in our script, we walk through the main reasons of why people fill out cards or request information, or why we do what we do and serve as many families. And we'll give them an example, like, you can be my client for a second, right?
Okay.
I'll say, now, Mr. Chris, there's really a few main reasons of why I sit with families just like you every single day. And the number one reason is they currently do not have anything in place, or any type of coverage or life insurance, and they're worried about leaving that financial burden on their family.
Right.
If, for example, if that was you, I say, you would be like, oh yes, that's similar in my situation, right? The second main reason, Mr. Chris, is some people have coverage in place, but they may have had it in a drawer somewhere or haven't looked at it for many years, and they're not sure if they quite have enough coverage or the right coverage in place, and they're still worried that they may not have that burden taken care of for their loved ones, right?
Yeah.
One could be leaving a legacy for the family. So anyways, you can go through that list, and you can simply ask them, now looking at these, Mr. Chris, which one of these most applies to you?
I don't have any coverage.
You don't have any coverage?
I don't have anything right now.
And why is that important to you to make sure you have that in place for your family?
Well, I mean, I want my wife paying for it.
Yeah. Now, I do hear that from a lot of people, Mr. Chris, but I understand you've been married for many years and you have a lot of good memories, but why does that really matter to you?
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about this question, we're trying to reveal and get them to agree to the reason that they made this request originally.
Right.
What is their vulnerability? What is the thing they're trying to communicate? We want to ask, why is that important? But the biggest thing that we notice in this situation, Chris, is it's not always enough just to ask that.
Right.
Because you, depending on who you are, right, depending on what client you're with, everybody's a little different. But typically you will get an emotional response.
Yes.
But when you agree with them, but you lower your voice a little bit more and you ask, but why does that really matter to you? That secondary response is going to be a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
Because she's the love of my life, and I couldn't imagine her struggling or having to figure this out on her own. Bingo. That's what you're wanting right there.
Right. That's good. And then when we talk about the emotional excavation, anytime you see archaeologists, they have their brushes, they're brushing away. They don't want to damage anything. It's very fragile. They found some dinosaur bones or ancient city and they're brushing things away to protect it. And we're getting to different layers. And really what needs to happen is that need needs to become a three-dimensional need. Like it's just as real. The tomorrow's need is just as real today. Mm-hmm. It has to be. So it may lead to some other questions where I can say to Zach, no, Zach, first of all, I can appreciate how much you care about Jade in this conversation, taking care of your final expenses. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, okay? God forbid, if something were to happen to you tomorrow, and she were to go down to the funeral home, and they were asking her for money to pay for this, what would that look like?
Wow. And the cool thing about this example, and I'm going to answer it, is there's always that you can see your client think. You can hear them think because this is a scenario that they haven't imagined. And the reason they haven't imagined is because their intentions always took care of it.
Their intentions
always took care of it. Mm-hmm. But they technically don't have anything in place. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a client in that situation, I'm like, well, Chris, I don't know. I guess she would have to figure a way to pay for
it. You guys can't hear this on the audio. You can see my hand motions, but a new agent rushes through that. And our job is to let people sit in that.
What do you mean by that?
They need to feel that discomfort. We've touched a pain point. They need to feel that discomfort because that, honestly, if we're being honest here, this is something they probably should have taken care of a long time ago. That's the truth.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So now we're at a reality point, and they need to feel that, because if they don't feel it, somebody's going to feel it. They're going to feel uncomfortable. Their spouse is going to feel, their kids are going to feel uncomfortable sitting in that funeral home having that conversation. So the agent can't rush. They got to let them sit just for a second.
Yes.
Just for a second.
Chris, I witnessed you do this many times years ago when I was a sponge learning this business. And this is, even if, like, especially on the phone, guys,
yes,
you as an agent cannot start blabberjawing and taking off talking.
Answering the question you
let me
just
show you a
asked.
couple things. Like, you cannot do that. You have to let them feel that moment, as Chris is saying, because at that moment, and there's follow-ups to this, in that very moment, they realize more than anything the need, and then as they start to speak, it becomes
the want. Yes.
So right then, I'm thinking I may need a little bit, or I don't have coverage in place, but I never really felt the need. I never felt vulnerable.
Right.
Chris is painting that picture for me of her sitting in the funeral home and having to answer those questions.
Yeah.
And
correct.
I may have been the one that took care of most of those things in our relationship. You know, you
Yeah.
never know that with couples. And
Right.
and the other part is, and I think you're getting ready to get to it, is the follow-up questions that come directly after me just processing her, trying to figure out where to go.
So let's talk through this for a second, okay? Let's say you're sitting with Mr. McGruff, and he says something like, "Oh, she'll figure it out." All right? Like my response in this case would be typically, "She'll figure it out." What does that look like? Like, a verbalized need becomes a want, and the need may not be realized yet. If you're getting that response, the need was not recognized. We need him to tell us what it will look like. And you can get as specific as you want on those follow-ups of, all right, I'm guessing they're going to have to borrow some money. Who would you want them to go to?
Yeah.
Like, until that need is like, oh, okay. Yeah. So then there's the final follow-up question.
I love this part. And before I get into that, Chris, is what you're doing is you're kind of painting that picture, right? There's a vulnerability here, AKA there's a problem, right?
Correct.
We are here to solve the problem, but they have to admit that the problem's there. A great agent doesn't allow the client or the person that's actually in need to blow it off or ignore or not acknowledge that the problem is there.
Correct.
What you're doing when you ask that second question there, what does that actually look like? That reveals to them that they can no longer hide behind, oh, it's taken care of, it's no big deal. Because it's
smoke screens.
It's a smoke screen.
Correct.
It's not.
Yeah.
In that situation, I loved, because a lot of times they're lost for words right there.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we're talking to them.
That's fine, and it should be.
We want it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love to ask, would she have to go take out a plan at the funeral home, or have to try to pay for it all then? If so, where would she get the money?
Yes.
What about other family members? Does anybody have any extra money that they are able and willing to pitch in to help? Would there be some sort of fundraiser? Are you all active in the community that can be able to?
You're giving such good stuff here. I want to stop at one of those, because it's not like you're just firing. You're giving them a chance to answer that question.
Right.
And there will be things that come up in this where they'll say, nope, that happened in our family, and this person didn't pay. We're upset with them.
Yeah.
And all that's doing is elevating that need. That's all it's doing.
And so they're thinking through every scenario in this moment, and we're allowing them to chew on that. And to feel what it's like. In addition to that, we're walking through, like I said, would you be active in the community? Would they be a fundraiser to be able to take care of, or how would they do that? And the other question I love to ask is, because sometimes clients will be like, oh yeah, they could probably do that, right? And how would that affect their family, and how would it affect your grandkids?
Yes.
Would that take away from some of their maybe extracurricular activities, or their sporting events, or their travel baseball team? Or would that affect their family vacation every year for a few years? Like I'm trying to paint the picture in a nice way by asking questions, not telling,
Right.
like that the decisions we make have a lasting effect on generations to come.
Correct.
Right. Then once I know that they have thought that all the way through and they're no longer defending this smoke screen that the problem is not a problem, and I let them do it by asking questions, then we ask the third question.
How does that make you feel?
Boom.
How does that make you feel?
How does that make you feel? This question, you're probably going to get a pause, and you want that.
Yeah. Well, that's the sale. That's it. I mean,
And
when that pause, you're going to get not good. Most of the time, you're going to get not good.
And honestly, the shorter answer here is arguably better because they're hurting.
Yeah.
They've went through that mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
They've seen the effect, and they're not proud of that.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful question, but that question only has power if you utilize the other two questions with the follow-up questions to each properly.
The great thing I like about this podcast today is you guys heard the tone. And you can play this back multiple times and hear how we talk to each other in that, because that's how we talk. We didn't say, so now you're in the funeral home and you're dead. She's sitting there trying to figure it out. How's she paying for that? Not good, right? Like it's
You're going to let her do that?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. So it's really, we're slowing down.
It's with compassion. It's with concern.
Yes,
it's
concern.
with confusion. Almost like we're sitting there. If you imagine yourself sitting there in the funeral home next to his spouse,
Correct.
And you're just as confused figuring out where in the world are we going to get the money? Like that's the tone and concern we want to have. We don't want to be defensive. That's why everything's a question, because we're proposing questions so they can figure out the answers. We're not telling them what they need to do, and if they don't, this, that, and the other will happen. That's the biggest mistakes that agents make. They feel like they're going to tell them into a policy.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work that way.
No. And finally, I would say, Zach, like after these three questions and we put them in the hot seat, comfortably put them in the hot seat. You know, it's almost like your seat heaters in your car.
We're sitting with them.
Yeah. Your seat heaters in your car, it goes on for a few minutes and you're like, oh, what's going on? You know, that's kind of how it feels. I will commend them, and I will say something like, Zach, I'll tell you what, man, I appreciate you wanting to make sure that Jade's taken care of. You're a good husband. And I can't tell you, many people, about 1% even send in a request for the information. So you're in the 1% of people who actually take action and take care of the people they love. So congratulations to you. And we haven't even gotten to prices yet.
No, because you don't need to. And this is so in line with our principal sales system, and we call it the no close, right? Or the no close final expense presentation. And the reason is because you don't have to close.
No.
Just gently, like even in my terminology, like when somebody's vulnerable and somebody needs help, I'm always going to lend a hand and help them. Everything I'm saying from here on out in the presentation is we.
Yes.
Me and them together, because they're in this position because they don't know what to do or how to do it. So I'm going to come alongside them. I'm going to be in this. I'm going to be a part of their family. It's going to help me establish trust. Everything I'm saying is we from now on, as we move through this, right?
Yeah.
And even flowing into some of the options that we give, we want to maintain that tone and that confidence that they're going to borrow from us, that we're going to get through this together.
Right.
Like, for example, like option one, if we give them 3 options, Mr. Chris, option 1 is to do nothing. But I know that's not an option for you because you told me how much you love Lisa and that you're always going to make sure she's taken care of, right?
Yeah.
And so it's almost that gentle confidence that we're moving through this together after we had that moment. And my tone is now changed. It's I'm not going to let you be in this position. I'm going to help you all the way through it. And we're theoretically locking hands, locking arms. We're getting through this together.
That's good, man. That's good stuff. This is a good podcast, man. I mean, toot our own horn. Go ahead and list those questions again, Zach.
Okay, so question number 1, again, if your marker ran out of ink, grab another one or lick it on your tongue, one of the two. Why is that important to you? Followed up with pausing, okay? But why does that really matter? Now, again, example. Now, Mr. Chris, I hear that from a lot of people, but why does that really matter to you?
Perfect.
All right.
Great.
So it's why is that important to you, and why does it really matter? That's question 1.
Yeah.
All right.
So next question.
Question 2 is, and you can say this in a number of ways, but we're asking the question of assuming there has been a loss without coverage. So, for example,
or even not enough coverage,
or not enough coverage.
Right.
So, for example, what would happen if you passed away today? Now, God forbid, Mr. Chris, what would happen if you passed away today without any or enough, depending on your situation there, without any coverage in place to help take care of Lisa?
So that the question is, what would this look like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Freebie.
No.
Oh, yes. Let's say it's for a legacy. They want to do something special for somebody. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to shift the focus, and I'm going to say, "Oh, that's so great that you want to do that for them. What would that look like, and what would you want them to do with it?"
Yeah.
Either way, I'm giving them the opportunity to make the need 3-dimensional.
I love that. I know me and you both have done that before.
Yes.
But if you had the opportunity, Mr. Chris, to put any amount of money in place that you would be able to leave for your grandkids, tell me how you would want them to utilize that money and remember you by.
Boom. Gold.
Right?
Gold, Adam. We're giving out gold here.
Follow-up question.
Right.
Obviously we're going to get to that third one there. But how would you want them to utilize that number of money and remember you by, how do you think that would affect and change the trajectory of their life? And then ultimately going back to question number 3,
how would that make you feel?
How would that make you feel?
To be able to do that for them.
Oh.
Boom. Okay. Cool.
Right there.
Good stuff, guys. I hope that's helpful for you. Those are 3 questions that will instantly make you more profitable.
Yes.
Again, if you want to taste some candy and you want a boot camp, put it in the chat. It's not chat. What do we call it? The comments below. Put it in the comments. Boot camp. Me want boot camp. Whatever. No, we'll have fun with you guys.
Yes.
We provide food and everything. I mean,
Yes.
It's insane.
It is awesome. It's a great event.
And we do have fun. We train. We're in the midst. We've actually helped close sales.
Can I ask for something, Chris?
Yeah, a hug?
No, not from you.
Okay,
I don't need
go
anything
ahead.
from you.
Go ahead.
But if you guys use this in every sit, every phone call, I promise it will make a difference. But if you ask these questions and it helps you in any way, shape, or form, your connection, your confidence, your closing, all the above, please like, subscribe, or share. It will help us to generate more content, to reach more people, more agents just like you guys, so we can make a difference in more people's lives and more communities. So
Cool.
I ask that, please.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. This was a fun podcast. We will catch you on the next Life Insurance Academy podcast. See you then.